So in this video, we're going to go over a couple of review problems for our exam on finances. So the first problem is we take out a 72-month loan for an $18,000 car with an 8.3% annual interest rate. We want to figure out how much our monthly payments are going to be and how much we end up paying in interest over the entire loan. So we can treat this just like a payout annuity. It's basically the same formula. So we have that A is equal to P. We have 1 minus 1 plus R over N. It's the negative NT. And this is divided by R over N. So we don't know what our monthly payment is. That's going to be this variable P right here. This is how much we're paying each period, or in this case, each month. But we do know our original amount for the loan, which would be our A. We know our interest rate, which is our R. We have a monthly for our period, so N is going to be 12. And for T, since it's a 72-month loan, you just have to figure out how many years 72 months is. That's going to end up being 6 years. So we also know T. So we can go ahead and plug in all of those values. So we've got 18,000 is equal to P 1 minus 1 plus our interest rate is 8.3%. So we have 0.083 divided by 12 raised to the negative 12 times 6 divided by 0.083 divided by 12. And so we can go ahead and plug this into our calculator. I'm just going to write out what P would be after rearranging all of this. We've got $18,000. We're going to multiply that by 0.083 and then divide by 12. And then we're also going to divide by, basically take this whole thing and divide by 1 minus 1 plus 0.083 divided by 12 raised to the negative 72. Once you type that into your calculator, we end up getting that P is going to be equal to $318.24. So this is going to end up being our monthly payment for the car. And so that answers the first part of this question. The second part is how much do we end up paying in interest, right? So currently we know how much the car was originally, so how much we financed, and then we know our monthly payment. So if we figure out how much we paid in total and subtract off what the original amount of the car was, the remaining balance is going to be all of the interest that we were accruing over those 72 months. So if I know that I'm paying $318.24 during the full loan period, to figure out my total amount that I paid, I take that $318.24 and I multiply it by 72 months. And I end up getting $22,913.39. So this is what I paid during that entire time of the loan. So if I want to figure out my interest, I'm going to take the amount that I paid during the loan term, and I'm going to subtract off the original loan amount, which is that $18,000. And so we figure out that over that 72-month loan, we ended up paying $4,913.39. So this is how much we ended up paying in interest on that car. All right, so this next problem, we have that we owe $3,800 on a credit card with a 29% APR. It says we can afford to make a $200 monthly payment, and we want to figure out how long we have to make these payments to get a zero balance. So we're going to treat this again like a payout annuity. So we can set up our payout annuity formula. So we have A is equal to P 1 minus 1 plus R over N raised to the negative NT, all divided by R over N. We know that our original balance is going to be $3,800. We know that we can afford to make a $200 monthly payment. We've got 1 minus 1 plus our APR is 0.29. We're doing it monthly, so we're going to divide by 12, and we're going to raise that to the negative 12 times. Here, we don't know what T is, so we're going to leave it as T, and then divide by R over N. Now, here's the problem that we run into with this. Technically, we can go through some algebra and solve for this T here. But it's a lot more difficult than solving for instance, in the previous problem, solving for P. Because instead of just having like a multiplication and division that we have to deal with this whole exponent and everything. And so here's where I actually linked in the homework a TMV calculator. Whoops. In week 10, so if you go to, I'm on my iPad right now, but if you go to modules and you click on this TMV calculator, it says use on your homework, and you open it, you're going to get this, where you can fill out the present value, the payments, future value, annual percentage rate, periods, and how often you're compounding. So here in this problem, we're basically trying to figure out how many months are we needing to pay this, right? And so we just need to fill out the rest of this information. So my present value is that I owe $3,800. So I'm going to type in negative $3,800. I know that I'm going to be making monthly payments of $200, so I'm going to fill that out. My annual percentage rate, I believe the problem said 29. So we'll fill in 29%. We don't know how many periods we're going to be going for, and we're making our payments monthly. The only thing that we need to fill in now is going to be this future value. And so if we're trying to figure out how long do we need to wait to be able to pay this loan off, we're trying to figure out how long do we need to continue making these $200 payments until our future value is zero, like until our current balance is zero. So here, future value is going to be zero. And then when we're trying to figure out what our periods are going to be, you can just go ahead and click on periods, and we get 25.74. And so we go ahead and round up. So 26 periods is how long we're going to need to be making this payment for. Okay, so that's a little over 2 years, basically 2 years and 2 months. All right, so suppose we want to track the payments for the first month, this should say months, in the following table. So on month 0, we're not going to make any payments, and our balance is going to be $3,800. After the first month, we've gone through one period, and we can actually go back to this calculator, remove what we have written for our future value, because that we're going to be solving for what our balance is after one period. And then here where we have selected periods, I can just type in 1. So after 1 month, I can type on this future value, and it will tell me the balance of my loan. So that's $36.91.83. So I go back. After month 1, this is going to be $36.91.83. I'm just going to double check that that number is in fact right. Yeah. And so the way that we figure out our principal paid is we're going to go ahead and look at how did our balance change. So we'll take, for principal paid, we'll take 36, or, whoops. We'll take 3,800 and subtract this 36.91.83. And when we type that into a calculator, we end up getting 108.17. So this guy is 108.17. So that's basically, that's how much my balance, my principal balance went down, and that's how much we paid in principal that month. The way that we figure out how much we paid in interest is we think about the fact that, well, we're making $200 payments. My balance went down 108.17, so the remainder of that must have been towards interest. So if you take the $200 that you paid that month and subtract off the amount that you paid in principal, you get the amount that you paid in interest. So that means that this month we paid $91.83 in interest. And so we can repeat this process again. So month 2, that means 2 periods have gone by because we're doing monthly periods. I can go back to this calculator and put 2 in for the periods and recalculate my future value. So I get 35.8105. So at month 2, I'm at 35.8105. And I go through the same process. I'm going to look at how did my balance change from month 1 to month 2. So I just subtract them, and that's going to be the amount that I paid in principal. So we get 110.75. And then the amount that we paid in interest that month is going to be the difference between that $110.75 and the $200 that I actually paid that month. Which is going to be $89.25. And we can continue filling this table out again and again and again for each of these. And you'll see tables like this on your homework as well. All right, so the third problem says we want to save up enough money in a savings account earning 3% APY so that we can withdraw $1,000 per month for 20 years. How much money should you set aside each month if you start now and want to start making withdrawals at age 70? Okay, so first, we need to figure out how much we need to save up in order to basically sustain the fact that we want to make withdrawals of $1,000 per month for 20 years. We know that the account that we're using has a 3% APY, so we can go ahead and use our payout annuity formula to figure out exactly how much we need to save up. So we have that A is equal to our monthly withdrawals are 1,000. And then we have 1 minus 1 plus our interest rate is 3%, so 0.03. We're doing it monthly, so we divide by 12. And we raise that to the negative 12 times. We want to do that for 20 years. So we have 12 times 20. And then we divide this whole thing by 0.03 divided by 12. So now we can actually just plug that entire thing into a calculator. $887,356.16. And so this is how much we need to save up by the time that we're 70, basically. So we want to save this up. Okay, so suppose for this question, you kind of have to know what age you are to figure out how long you have between now and 70. So let's just suppose that we're 25. So then between now and 70 years old, we have 45 years. And so we can plug all of the information that we have into our savings annuity formula. So for our savings annuity formula, we put our end amount, so 887,356.16. We don't know what we are depositing each month, so we just put P. And then we have 1 plus R over N raised to the NT minus 1 divided by R over N. And so we can just plug in R and N and T. So I've got R is 0.03, N is 12. We're doing this for 45 years, so we have 12 times 45 as our exponent. And then in the denominator, we have 0.03 divided by 12. And so we can go ahead and use a calculator. End up getting 778.13. So that's how much we would have to set aside each year from now until when we are 70 years old to be able to sustain withdrawing $1,000 per month for the next 20 years.